I would agree with much of what is being said here in terms of advocacy to our higher levels of government and using the input that we have through these various forums to do so. What we can do proactively is build on our emergency response capability. Currently, none of the local area commanders who would be trained to deal with emergencies have any training in terms of oil spills. We also need to inventory the equipment that we would be using both in the public and private sector, and there is a lot of that equipment being near to the Naval and the Coast Guard base. And then coordinate our plans with the Coast Guard and the Navy and develop an emergency action plan. While we continue to advocate to move away from fossil fuels, we need to have this kind of plan in place. And currently there really is no planning like that being done. We have to hold the line for 2 to 14 days until the forces of the province and the nation can come to help us.
Thank you, John.
I agree with so many people that actually, I agree with John. We need to change the way that we actually purchase things. I agree with Rodney and his gas problem. I agree with John as far as the response locally. If something does happen, we need to develop an emergency situation for that locally. I agree with almost everybody actually at all these tables, which is an oddity for me, really.
Thank you. Wrapping up this question, Bart.
Thank you. I agree with the mechanism of using UBCM and FCM. They are phenomenal tools for us as a municipality. They do provide a greater voice to other levels of government, but I think there's more that we can do as well using them. Not only just saying no to the tankers, but what we need to do is to encourage them to develop plans that provide incentives for other types of energy to move away from fossil fuels. And for example, electric vehicles. There was a small opportunity when you bought an electric vehicle that you got a small rebate. That's just not enough to change the tide. We need to have other government levels really recognize the advantage of alternative energies and how we're going to help people to move away from the fossil fuels. Thank you.
Reset the clock for 30 seconds, if you would. I know that's a challenge for candidates to go to 30 seconds, but we've only got an hour left. We've got a lot of really good questions here with a lot of hands that want to go up in the audience. Nick is here with me, and we're going to go back to the amalgamation one because he was not satisfied with the answer, so let me rephrase the question. Nick will tell me if I get it right. How many candidates here are willing to put up their hand and say they are in favor not of studying amalgamation, but of reducing the number of municipalities in Greater Victoria? In doing it, not just studying it. Okay, Nick? Okay. Any candidates here willing to put up their hands for that? That's your answer then. Okay. Thank you. Sometimes not putting up your hands can be how it was doing. Okay, so questions down front here. I've got your hands over there. Yes.
My question is for everyone. Do you principally believe in large government or small government? And please explain your reasons for whichever decision you towards. And also, do we not depend on government to create in a job base for our country and community?
Are we talking municipal government? So you want larger or smaller municipal government? Would that be fair? Okay. Larger or smaller municipal government? Why don't we start, I'm just doing this at random. Olga, we'll start with you and work your way down. Why? And why? Please be brief on this one if you can, get more.
That's an interesting question, and I think, I'm not sure. I think the most important thing in government is that it's responsive to its citizens, and that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
I agree with what Olga said. It's up to the people to say how many people they're going to elect. And other than that, I have nothing else to say.
That's fine. Brevity is valuable.
I agree with smaller government. I believe that if the government is following the Constitution of Canada and not moving into areas such as social engineering and dictating how we live our lives, then we get much more freedom, much more liberty to pursue our own individual happiness, to protect our own property rights. The smaller the government, the more freedom we have. The bigger the government, the more it moves into your individual liberties, your freedoms, and infringes on the Constitution. Thank you.
John.
There are always efficiencies to be realized in any form of government, and we need to continually look for that. Well-led and well-managed government can be highly effective, and good service to our community through a well-led government is an investment in our future, in my view.
Scott.
I think the question really comes back to amalgamation, which I hate to bring that up, but when we're talking about smaller, larger government bodies, we're talking about less people controlling more of an area. And it's a really difficult situation because, like Josh says, when you have that happen, you give up some of your freedoms. An example of that would be if we actually had some form of amalgamation with 4 different municipalities, and they said, well, we're going to vote for you to clear down your Archie Browning Center. And like I fought against the tearing down the Archie Browning Center, we wouldn't have any control over that.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you. I believe in efficient government. And really, the size of government is dependent on what you, as the residents and the citizens, determine by what services you require. So if you are looking to reduce the size of government, we need to have a heart-to-heart on what services you're looking at cutting back on. Thank you.
I agree with Barb. Large or small government, one is effective government. One that meets the needs of the residents, and they can then determine the size of the government that's needed to meet their needs. Thank you.
I think for me, I would start with a governance review of the CRD. I think that's actually that is the disaster that needs to be dealt with, and the waste that comes out of there would beggar your imagination. So that's where I would like to start.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you. This almost seems like an amalgamation question. But for me, a good government is, I will use the word effective. We want to make sure that we have infrastructure programs, our emergency services, safety services, health services. But the part that bothers me most about going to a larger government is accessibility to your level of governance, whatever that is, your councillors, your directors, how responsible they be, and how open and accessible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As a councillor, I was the one that brought forward the motion, 2 motions to allow you to have a say on the issue of amalgamation, and secondly on the issue of shared services. But I also want to say, government is not evil. Government is your rec center. Government is the guys that pick up your garbage every 2 weeks. Government is what fills the potholes on the streets. Government is what gets your kids safely to school, all right, keeps our streets. Government is not evil, but it can be far more efficient. One area is policing. We need to have our shared services for policing across the region. Thank you.
So for sake of brevity, there's not much more to add. Doesn't matter what size the government is, if there isn't strong public engagement, public input, and if it's not efficient, it's not working for you, the people.
And finally,
I feel that dealing with different municipalities around here, the larger government you have, the more the civil servants control it. And as for filling up potholes, I guess the government in Esquimalt doesn't believe in that because you don't do it.
It's effective and efficient government that's most important. I believe we can be smaller and still be effective and efficient, as if you take into account the CRD. But more than that, I really can't comment.
thank you.
Thank you. I think government has sort of 3 basic purposes: to provide law and order, to provide for safety, and to ensure that all Canadians have what they need for basic quality of life. This is not necessarily cheap, nor should it be, but I think that government should get that job done and then go home.
And thank you. I'm of the belief as well that it's the efficiency of the government and how it operates as opposed to the size. And I would like to echo what has already been said, that if we want to reduce the size of government, we might have to look at reducing services, and that's where the real discussion will have to come in. Thank you.
Okay, we'll come over on this side for a question. If you've got a question on that side, put your hands up. Adrian will come to you. Show of hands question from the Esquimalt Chamber of Commerce. And I'll preface this question by saying, I realize you do not have this authority. It's currently in the hands of the provincial government. But if you could, would you be in favor of restoring the business vote to the owners of Esquimalt businesses? Who would be in favor? Who would not be in favor? Could you put up your hand so it's clear? Susan Rowe. Thank you. Okay, over on this side of the audience. Hand up over here. Hi.
I have a question for everyone on this panel. We are very concerned about Park Terrace. It has potholes all the way through, and the lighting's not bad, but the thing is, it's very, very unsafe. It's very narrow, and currently we are doing a petition. My friend Reagan here has a poster that will show exactly what is going on in that terrace, or that road. It's not even a road, really. It's a laneway.
What does the petition ask?
Petition wants us to, or wants council and mayor to put in a roadway and a curb. We don't necessarily need a sidewalk, but we are definitely looking for the road and the curb.
Who's in favor of the road and the curb being put in? Who's against spending tax dollars on upgrading Park Terrace? Yeah, I know you gotta put in context, so what you need to talk to the individual members. You saw that you got everybody on that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, here's a tough one for you, council members and candidates. I understand the Esquimalt Fire Rescue has reduced nighttime staffing to just 4 firefighters. If elected or re-elected, will you boost staffing levels, or would you instead be in favor of contracting out fire protection, all or in part, to DND? Why don't we start with Maryland's candidates? John Dufford, start with you. So that's a two-parter there. Would you boost staffing levels, or would you instead be in favor of contracting out fire protection, all or in part, to DND?
So clearly, there's a lot of issues about staffing and problems within the fire department, and I am committed to opening lines of communication and applying common sense to solve the problems there. I think that you cannot take a secondary look or a secondary mindset on public safety, and this fire situation has been brewing for far too many years. We have to have the proper staffing levels, and if that means an increase, so be it. And we have to communicate with the firefighters.
My whole platform is based on the idea of a high-density living, and high-density means lots of condos, 24 stories, which requires fire service in a big way. I don't plan to reduce, I plan to actually increase, but because there's more people living in the area, it includes more revenues for everything from fire safety to community services.
Thank you. I would just like to answer first by saying the statement is inaccurate. We have not reduced it to 4 firefighters. And we are currently hiring for a fire chief, and we are hiring firefighters to bring the complement up so that there will be less worry and work on overtime. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, regarding. I'm with Scott there regarding the density. As we look to increase the density of our downtown core in Esquimalt, more people will mean more revenue, which means fire protection and emergency services will be properly ratioed in accordance to the people who are living there. And for 2 spread out, that's a challenge for firefighting and protection services. So the density bonuses to come to downtown will help with all those emergency services.
I'm one of the 3 candidates that the firefighters have endorsed this election, and that sprung out of a willingness to meet with the union rep and to start the communication flowing. But having said that, as a newcomer, I have no depth on this file, and I would absolutely not weigh in at this point. I would need more information, and I'm committed to more information and communication with the firefighters. Thank you. Thank you. So I am in support of the comments made by the mayor. I think we would need to see what the difference of one firefighter makes in terms of staffing levels and shift levels. And I would be willing to consider other options if we need more. But I think it's premature at this point. We need more information. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think just in the essence of transparency, that question was so specific, I kind of wonder if it came from a firefighter, whether or not they're even a resident of Esquimalt. You know, let's have grown-up discussions. Let's put people on council that can make tough decisions based on factual information. Not about trying to score points between unions, employers, and, you know, conquering dividing. That's not how Esquimalt does business. We elect good people with good sound judgment to make good decisions. And ultimately, the public safety and what's best for the community is what leads to those decisions. Thank you.
So one of the reasons why we're hiring the extra firefighter is to make sure that we're always meeting our IAFF, Firefighter Association collective agreement and the work safe legislation, but also we want to make sure that we keep our staffing levels at a point that the overtime doesn't continue to grow, because overtime is one of the biggest eaters of the budget. So that is one of the things that we are working at improving.
I've been working on this fire stuff for a couple of weeks now. There was a secret report made out that nobody knew about until I found out today we paid $17,325, tax included. Why can't this council let us hear that stuff? Might be some legal thing that somebody might talk on the street.
Thank you. Why don't we start with Josh and work our way down again.
Well, I'm interested in Barb's comment saying that there's more than 4 already on, so that's interesting. I would support looking at the cost benefit of contracting out to D&D. D&D has that beautiful new emergency station down on Esquimalt, and there's also nothing wrong with looking at volunteer firemen to complement the fire department that we have right now. Thank you.
Thank you. We already asked a question about volunteer firemen, and we were told that it was not in the contract for the firemen. So if it's not in the contract, the question cannot be brought up. So we will inform as the council. We have added, as the mayor said, to help improve our firefighters, to give us more safety in Esquimalt. And if that's what we're here for the safety of our citizens. So I think we are working in the right direction. Thank you.
I believe in a safe community, and I think that firefighters have a major role to play in that. I do not think that our safety should be dependent on volunteers, and I'm in favor of restoring staffing levels and not contracting out services. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm in agreement with what the mayor has said, that we are proceeding down that way, but also I'd like to mention that over the last 3 years, we have supported the fire department in many ways. There was major renovations done to the hall. We bought a brand new fire truck, which my understanding is to be delivered in December of this year or early January. And those were all designed to make it easier for the firefighters to serve us well. Thank you.
For me, safety of our residents and also our firefighters is the most important thing to me when talking about fire services. And that's why I think that response levels must absolutely be maintained at a minimum of 5 per staff. I think that you're going to be asked whether you want council to explore the sharing of services as a means to save money or create efficiencies. And if you say yes to that, then looking at DND as a possible partner in fire services is something I think we should look at.
Thanks, Susan. Ben?
I agree with Beth in that I don't have the depth of knowledge on this. Safety is extremely important, but I would like to see the different options and the different long-term effects and costs of those options before weighing in.
Thank you. Rod Laverne asked me to mention to you that he's not feeling well, so he's just stepped outside to get some cool, fresh air, which he hopes to be back. I'll be thanking for his participation. Okay, here's one that won't get anything going. Council and mayoralty candidates, show of hands. Are you in favor of deer being culled in Esquimalt on a regional basis? Are you in favor of deer being culled in Esquimalt on a regional basis?
No.
Anybody here willing to put up their hands and say? Linda Hunterly. Okay. Now, this is probably going to be the issue that's going to decide the election in okay. That was an easy show of hands. Did you want to hear more from the candidates on that issue or go on to something else? Okay, thanks. Keep that. Your meeting here. Okay. This was one from the Esquimalt Chamber of Commerce. We want to know who has a concrete plan in place and a time frame for fixing and improving the Esquimalt Strip. Concrete plan in place and a time frame for fixing and improving the Esquimalt Strip. Tim, we'll start with you and work our way down the road that way.
Well, I think it's actually a central platform that most of the candidates running. And I think what you need to do is be really specific. We often say we want to fix up the Esquimalt Road because we all know we live in a wonderful community. But look, it's a stark thing that stands out. It's Esquimalt Road, and that's unfortunately what most people see about Esquimalt. There's a thing in the community charter which enables local governments to declare an economic revitalization zone. We're already starting down that path for Esquimalt Road. That will allow us to provide things like property tax holidays for new businesses to come in, fix up the shops, fix up the storefronts, make it a much more attractive, inviting place for everyone to come. Thank you.
All right, so much like Tim said, it's about the tax incentive program that was spoken about earlier. We need to offer a benefit to businesses to increase their storefront. The other thing is, even our vacant buildings that are sitting vacant, I would like to see a frontage go in them, a false front, and we can use our local artists, our local schools, all of that to decorate the front, so at least if it's an empty building, it looks nice to walk by and might entice people to want to develop it.
I would agree with just about everyone here that we need to do something. I'm really pleased that with the economic development strategy, there is a part there that we can talk about incentives and how we might do that. We've asked staff to come forward with options. We really need to have some incentive and some assistance to provide those businesses and owners to fix up what it looks like, and we need to be able to sell or rent those so that we do have more retail along our frontage. Thank you.
Beth?
I think really my focus would be on the village project as a catalyst and kind of the cornerstone, and the hope that would roll out. On another level, like I'm not all that keen to go hard on that part of the Esquimalt Road because there are a lot of residents that live there who call that area home, and it may not be what some of us prefer, but it is people's homes, and I'm sensitive to that. So I love diversity in our town as well as beautification. Thank you.
The question was concrete plan and the timeline. I've been focusing a lot of my energies on the east end of Esquimalt at a Head Street location. I've met with owners of property and storefronts and businesses, and I have some success to share with them that they are prepared to move forward on some initiatives in very, very short term. I'm hoping to have an announcement for you by next week for some immediate cleanup in that area of town. It's a concrete plan, and it's going to happen this month. Thank you.
Thank you. Much has been said already. I support and would implement revitalization tax policies for Esquimalt Road that are very clear and targeting for cleanup and for new businesses. I would explore a business improvement association to be formed so that we can have the business owners or the building owners to be responsible. I'm a fan of guerrilla gardening, and through the Best Bloom and Beautiful contest, we need to get the businesses on side. So,
Thank you, Lynn.
Again, my platform states that we need to do some high-density growth. If you have high-density growth, you have more clients for businesses that can grow. I have owned a business in Esquimalt for 15 years and struggled with it because, quite frankly, the infrastructure around is passable. Everyone passes by. And the reason why they don't stop is because I'm the only business in the area. High density gives the businesses a chance to make money.
John.
What's clear that has to happen is a complete cleanup and work on the infrastructure immediately around our core, and getting that within the first days of taking office. We must adopt a business-friendly plan and approach in our town hall to get permits and things moving much more quickly. We also have to fund the Chamber of Commerce directly and establish a liaison person to work with them. There's a lot of other ideas, but I'm not a fan.
Okay, my plan would be to fix the business bylaw, which council messed up and discriminated against people. It's totally discriminatory and unconstitutional for some businesses to be charged $2,000 a year and others to be charged $100 a year. It sends a bad message that we're not open for business unless you fit into council's morality. And I also think that we shouldn't be subsidizing businesses, but give them tax credits. Let them keep their money instead of giving them yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with that, giving the business a tax incentive, if that's going to help improve them. But I think we also need to bring the owners to task and keeping their business fronts clear, the streets clear, so that the pedestrians that are walking on our sidewalk do not have to walk around the articles that they have outside for sale. Thank you.
I think Esquimalt Road is a big opportunity for us. I think we need to do developments that are appropriate for our community, and with that being said, basically that means developments that won't be built and then sit there half empty when they are built. And we need to get businesses that are invested in our community and that are going to be here for the long term. I really want to see them here for the long run. And in the short term, painting some buildings I think can go a long way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to indicate at this time that I do live along the Esquimalt Road down towards Head Street. I'm totally in favor of working towards improving the appearance, whether it means new development or whether it means giving maybe some incentives to local areas to improve. But the one caution I do make that if we do give tax breaks, we might have to raise the money somewhere else. So that would need to be discussed. Thank you.
Susan?
Thank you. In terms of timeline and concrete ideas, the tax incentive that's already been discussed can be passed in the next budget. That means that businesses or residents will have 2 years before they actually decide to use the tax incentive. So we can't expect immediate improvements. We need to be realistic about that. I think guerrilla gardening and paid crews can happen right beginning next year. We also have a farmers market, that group that is forming to bring a farmers market to somewhere in Esquimalt. Hopefully that will be on Esquimalt Road. Thank you.
Brenda, you're the cleanup hitter on this one.
As a former business owner on Esquimalt Road near Admirals, right across from the Tim Hortons, I saw a litter issue, and even though I kept up my frontage, I couldn't keep up everybody's frontage around me. So I would like to see small ashtrays and garbage cans reinstalled along critical points along Esquimalt Road so that people are encouraged to throw their trash away close to where the trash occurs. I also agree, that's a short-term solution. I also agree with the longer-term solutions of higher density and encouraging businesses to come here.
Thank you. Anybody here got a question? If you